and all of a sudden give them insurance, unless you significantly increase the supply of medical providers, something that Obamacare does not do, or significantly increase the compensation for the existing providers to work harder and see more people, which the act does not do either. And the oldest saying in the book is simply a matter of law of physics. You can't put 10 pounds in a 5-pound bag. So the result of adding 32 million more people to the Medicaid rolls, and to the rolls of the insured, without increasing the supply of doctors or their compensation, is simply that you will end up with a system of ration care. Now, I do not call it death panels. I think that was hyperbolic, but I do think you will end up with a system of ration care, and that's why most doctors that I've talked to are quite adamantly against the provisions of the Affordable Care Act. The debate people have in Ohio is twofold. Should we set up a state exchange? And the answer to that is no, we're not going to do that because we've already missed the deadline, and our lieutenant governor and director of insurance does not want to do it. And then secondly, should we expand Medicaid? Now, if we do, it probably will not be to the level that the Obamacare Act would have us do, but we may have expanded some, but probably not much. Fourth issue, this will come, I'm sure as I'm sitting here, there will be a comprehensive rewrite of Ohio's election laws. This year we had a lot of consternation over that, and my friends in the Democratic Party said, oh, you can't change the laws this close to a presidential election. That was one of their major arguments. And okay, we accept that argument. We will now change them about the week after the presidential election is over. So we won't be hearing any griping about your changing the laws too close to the presidential election. This will be as far away from the presidential election as you can imagine. Now the sad thing is, and Eric knows this, he and I were going to be looking at each other face to face. We offered to repeal the election laws that we had passed this year and replace them with provisions of a compromise bill that I spent the better of 2 years negotiating with the then Democrat Secretary of State, Jennifer Bruner. That offer was made this summer. But Eric, his point people on election law, said, we're not interested. We're not interested. Okay. We offered. They were not interested. The rewrite that we will pursue will probably be less to their liking than what we put on the table this summer before they went to court, up and down. The courts aren't finished. They just ruled yesterday in favor of Ohio that the district court erred when he said people could vote in any dirt precinct they wanted to and not have to go to their correct polling location. So we've had endless litigation. Time to put that to bed. We will put it to bed. There will be action on a bank tax reform bill, which if you're in a small bank, you should appreciate. The new tax reform bill that the House has passed and we will take up in the Senate is to the advantage of our smaller banks and savings and loans. The Cheviot Savings and Loans, the Miami Savings, the Cincinnati Federals, they all like it, okay? The big banks have been relatively quiet. Most of them are federally chartered and will not be affected by it, but we're trying to help the small banks, and that will happen. The sixth thing that we have a big debate over is the future of local government funding. I think that's an issue where Democrats and Republicans who believe in local government should be on the same side. I certainly do not like the fact that we've cut local government funding to the extent we have, and I know that the governor would like to get rid of it altogether. So we will have a robust debate over the future of local government funding. We will have a robust debate over telecom deregulation and the continuation of a 911 charge on your phone bill. I know our county commissioners are very interested in getting permissive authority to add a per line per month charge to fund county dispatch and 911 operations. And I know the telephone companies are very interested in further deregulation so that they do not have to run landlines to new subdivisions when they're competing so vociferously with cable, computerized telephones, and with wireless telephones. So that debate is already through the Senate. I think there was virtually unanimous support for that bill in the Senate. It's been bogged down in the House. We'll get that tied up by the end of the year. There will be some minor cleanup work to our landmark sentencing reform bills. Nothing dramatic. This has been a tremendous bipartisan success story. The two bills that we passed in 11 and in 12 have resulted in Ohio having the second lowest recidivism rate in the country. And that's good. What is recidivism? Repeat offenders. When the recidivism rate goes down, that means we are safer because there is less crime. And through the policies that we pursued on a very bipartisan basis, we have reduced overcrowding in our prisons. We are making better use of community-based correctional facilities, and we have succeeded in reducing the recidivism rate. Be a few tweaks that we need to clean up to that. Actually, the prison system is now interested in actually increasing sentences for those inmates that commit violent acts while they are in prison. Currently, under the current system, they know they're going to get out on day X. We cannot keep them past day X, so they have no real incentive if they are of a violent bent to act well, because they say, screw you, I'm out of here, in 2 months. We need to now look at a system that allows the prisoner to be retained longer than the minimum sentence if the prisoner commits violent acts while in prison. There will be a robust debate over privatization or sale of the Ohio Turnpike. I don't know about you, I've only been on the Ohio Turnpike once in my life. One time. One time I drove from up around Pudding Bay over to Chicago, and I was on the Ohio Turnpike. That's an issue where the northern part of the state doesn't want to do it, and the southern part of the state is somewhat indifferent. To me, the issue is, will we get a good price for it, and what kind of guarantee will we have that the road will be maintained, and the tolls will not increase to a usurious level. But we're going to have that same debate down here, folks. And so before people get too antsy about, oh, we can't sell off the turnpike, we can't support tolling of that facility, we're going to be having that debate down here about the Brent Spence. And everything I hear is that Brent Spence Bridge is not going to get built without some mechanism by which tolling can be used to provide some of the revenue. So public-private partnerships are coming. And so it's important to keep an open mind about it and not just have a knee-jerk reaction against that kind of thing. We will await the recommendations of the Constitutional Modernization Commission. There's a 32-member commission. I'm not on there, are you? Eric's not. But it's a bipartisan commission set up to review our whole cumbersome long Ohio Constitution with a view towards recommending reforms. Right? Don't know how long they're going to take to come up with recommendations. I think the recommendations require a supermajority affirmative vote, so they may not come up with anything. But I would say to you that would be the best vehicle for any possible redistricting or redistricting proposal to come out, because I can predict with certainty that issue 2 this year, as with issue 2 last year, is going down in flames. There is no way that the people are going to buy this Rube Goldberg insane new redistricting proposal that a couple law professors came up with in Ohio State, and didn't have the good sense to ask the judges whether they liked it before they gave the judges a central role in the plan. And so I think once the Ohio Judicial Conference and the Ohio State Bar Association came out resoundingly against issue 2, its fate was pretty well sealed. So those of you that care about redistricting ought to now focus your efforts on the Constitutional Modernization Commission. 2 final things, and I'll sit down. It is quite likely that we will have the same debate we always have over the K-12 school funding formula. The governor has promised a new school funding formula, but like so many other governors before him, I think he is finding out that it is easy to design a wonderful plan, hard to design the money to fund the plan, easy to design, easy to come up with good ideas, hard to make those good ideas stick across a state as large and diverse as Ohio. So he has been very shut-mouthed about what he's working on. I can't tell you that I have the slightest clue what he is working on. I think Governor Strickland came up with a very, on the whole, good plan, but there was no money there to fund it, all right? So what we need to do whenever we talk about school funding is differentiate between the ideal and that which can be funded, and recognize that the state is a big and diverse state, and what works for Cincinnati Public Schools may not work for Cleveland Public Schools. What works for Princeton District may not work at all for a rural district in eastern Ohio. We need to be sensitive to those kinds of differences. And then finally, it is possible, though I don't predict it too likely, that elements of collective bargaining reform may be resurrected as a way to give local governments more tools to deal with the local government budgetary pressures under which they operate. I do not think Senate Bill 5 will be resuscitated in anything like its previous form. That would be politically suicidal. However, there were elements of Senate Bill 5 that did have broad support and that could be modestly reworked to be more fair and that would end up saving money, and I'll just give you one. Healthcare benefits ought not be a subject of collective bargaining. Why? The insurance companies tend to jack you around on rates every year. If you sign a 3 or 4 year deal with your union that locks you in, you cannot, as a public employer, respond to those changing circumstances as nimbly as you need to. Right? Now, the problem with what Senate Bill 5 said about that was, we want everybody to pay 15% towards their health care costs. Well, 15% of what? All right? So the answer is, we take that off the table as a subject of collective bargaining, but we require that whatever management makes available to its own employees, they must also make that same, whatever management makes available to itself, they must also make available to its employees. That ensures that there will not be a two-tier system in which management gets some gold-plated Cadillac plan and the regular workers get screwed. But anyway, that's a brief look at a dozen issues that are likely to be on the horizon. Don't know how they'll come out, but that's where I think things go. And with that, Eric?